From the verge of becoming a dynasty to one of the greatest betrayals in sports history, the Kevin Durant era in Oklahoma City was one of exhilarating highs followed by soul-crushing lows, at least until KD decided to burn it all. Back in the early 2010s, OKC had all the makings of a rising dynasty founded on exceptional youth. Two generational young talents in KD and Russell Westbrook, a defensive monster in Serge Ibaka, and a cheat code off the bench in James Harden. Every single year, they were a threat in the playoffs. They proved that they could play against the old Western powerhouses like the Spurs, and it was just a matter of time until they broke through. They got their first and only taste of the NBA Finals in 2012, but LeBron and the Heatles were too strong. The summer of 2012 marked the first major crack in the team. James Harden was playing way above his contract value, and he wanted his new contract to reflect his level of play. But the Thunder are a small market team with an owner who wasn't willing to pay Harden the money he was asking for, so Harden left for the Rockets. Still, the KD and Russ core continued making waves in the West, and the basketball world had faith that they could bring a championship to the city. If that was ever going to happen, 2016 would be the year. Western Conference Finals, the Thunder are up 3-1 on the defending champions, the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. One win away from their second finals trip and a chance for revenge against LeBron. That 3-1 lead was their final exhilarating high, and the biggest heartbreak would come 3 games later when the Warriors managed to complete their comeback to win the series. Considering they had arguably the greatest team of all time on the ropes, there's a good chance they would have gone all the way. But once again, it was not meant to be. Had OKC won, there would likely never have been a Warriors dynasty, and the NBA could have been a much better league. Unfortunately, we ended up with 4 years of every single team not named Warriors or Cavs essentially choosing between tanking and trying to compete, only to get wrecked by either of the mentioned two, depending on their conference. After coming back from a 3-1 deficit, the Warriors would blow their own 3-1 lead in the finals, and the salary cap blew up in the summer of 2016 to create a perfect storm for one of the greatest betrayals in sports history. An infamous letter titled "My Next Chapter" that Kevin Durant penned in the Players Tribune sent shockwaves across not just the NBA, but sports as a whole. The salary cap explosion gave the Warriors theoretical space to add KD, and a call from Draymond Green shortly after the finals got the ball rolling in the practical sense. Durant was officially a Warrior. OKC fans were beyond devastated. Their hero, the man who was supposed to lead them to a championship, abandoned them for the very team they almost beat a year prior. They were expecting KD to run things back and finally get over the hump in 2017. The wider NBA world was in shambles since a 73-9 team somehow managed to add arguably the greatest scorer of all time. There was now one contender and everyone else might as well fire up the tank engines. KD jerseys became a core component of every bonfire and barbecue in Oklahoma, and the perception of KD as an all-time great player was shattered for the time being. How could he have done this? Was it a falling out with Westbrook? Was it the belief that he would never win with OKC? Was he just that soft and weak? Truth be told, it was most likely a mix of all three, but what's done is done. The 2017 season got underway with the Warriors as the runaway title favorites. Despite a 1-2 start, things quickly clicked into place and the Warriors started rattling off wins. While everyone knew that the Warriors would probably have the best record in the league, one regular season game was circled on everyone's calendar: Golden State at Oklahoma City, KD's first game in the arena he used to call home. But before KD's homecoming, OKC and Golden State would face off twice in Oakland. November 4th, Golden State wins the first of their 4 matchups that season, 122-96. Durant led all scorers with 39 points. On the other hand, Russ had 20 and 10 but with 6 turnovers. The next game was on January 19th, another Golden State blowout, this time 121-100. Durant once again led all scorers with 40, but Russ had a 27, 13, and 15 triple-double, actually quadruple-double if you count his 10 turnovers. KD clearly had no issues going against his former team, but playing in front of a supportive Warriors crowd is a bit different from the hell he'd have to face in OKC. Russ had a couple of chips on his shoulder. He had some gripes with KD before the split, but now he needed to prove to the world that he could still win on his own. He also lost the first 2 matchups on the road, and he needed to win at home. The NBA schedulers determined that February 12th would be the day when the prodigal son returns to Oklahoma. Except Durant didn't come to ask for forgiveness, he came to burn any remaining sliver of goodwill he had left in Oklahoma. But maybe, just maybe, the fans will show some appreciation for everything he has given the team. Well, anyone who had that idea was proved wrong as soon as KD's name was called during the introduction of the starting lineups. A few fans stood up and applauded in gratitude, but the sounds of the crowd booing Durant could probably have been heard outside of the arena. Cupcake signs could be seen throughout the arena, and it was clear that the fans came prepared. For good measure, a KD chant broke out in the very first possession of the game, and booing started every time KD touched the ball. He was phased, but he still hit a jumper on Golden State's first possession. The crowd was so relentless that their booing was even recognized on the game's In the Zone, a segment usually reserved for players who are cooking in that game. With just under 7 left in the first, Westbrook ended up being guarded by KD. OKC fans got out of their seats hoping to see their star player cook Durant, but Steven Adams came to set a screen and score off of a feed from Russ. Adams was responsible for most of OKC's scoring early in the game as they got out to a 7-point lead and Durant was 2 of 5 from the field early. Besides hitting a jumper with the defender right in his face, he wasn't showing much so far and finished the first quarter just 2 of 8 from the field, and he was subbed out with 2:30 left in the quarter. The rest of the Warriors squad showed up, however, and they had regained the lead by the end of the first. Golden State had a double-digit lead early in the second with Durant still on the bench. He checked back in at the 7:15 mark, and that would be a vastly different quarter for him. Clearing his head on the bench, Durant first hit a 3 and then tipped in a Klay Thompson miss. Westbrook was still leading OKC in his usual fashion, contributing across the board, but turnovers were once again a problem for him. The TV crew was scanning the crowd every chance they got, looking for the most creative fan posters and cutouts slandering KD. Meanwhile, Durant looked much more comfortable in the second quarter, letting the game come to him and making a layup and a dunk before the end of the half. Golden State was up 73-50 at the half. Durant started the second half, but he missed his first 2 shots. He came back to life a few minutes after, hitting a layup and then a 3-pointer over Sabonis a minute later. Westbrook managed to draw a shooting foul on a 3, which sent the crowd roaring despite OKC still being down by around 20. Westbrook had a few more big moments in the third, especially when he got a driving layup against Durant one-on-one. But things got a bit heated after KD and Russ started chirping each other following an OKC 3 and a timeout call from Steve Kerr. KD was noticeably more aggressive in the second half, drawing fouls against anyone he wanted on the OKC squad and getting to the free throw line multiple times, and getting into a mini scuffle with Andre Roberson after a shooting foul, but they separated without a major incident. Shortly after, KD checked out for Draymond. Golden State was up 103-83, and Durant was leading the Warriors with 27 points. With Durant off the floor, OKC managed to cut the lead to just 12 points early in the fourth. Kerr had to call for time, and Durant was back in. His gravity opened up the floor for Golden State. Not content with just spacing the floor, Durant rocked the rim with a powerful dunk to give Golden State a 15-point lead. He also made sure they held onto it with a tough baseline jumper and then a deep 3-pointer that even had Curry impressed. The Oklahoma crowd was pissed. Not only had Durant betrayed them, but he now came back to beat them in their own house. Durant did most of his damage over time, only entering takeover mode for a few minutes in the fourth to put the game out of reach. When the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard read 130-114, a 16-point Warriors win. Westbrook more than held his own with 47, 11, and 8, but struggled to hold on to the ball with 10 turnovers. Durant had a clean 34, 9, and 3, but more importantly, he had the last laugh over the Oklahoma crowd. He had made it clear this was no longer his home, and he was not only content with seeing it burn, but he was willing to torch it himself. But what do you think of this game? Let us know below and see you in the next one.